Well, today is already Thursday. It's the fourth day of the week. Like I say, we did not learn new key concepts. We went really fast in the first 3 days, and we have, not everyone's able to be present all the time as well. So it's okay to slow down a little bit. I'm just going to take the 3 questions again. By now, you may see that, please guys, don't make changes in this file. No need, right? So by now, so I'm just gonna, for me, you can see that by now I'm using Quip a lot, and it's the way where if I need to go to any document, I just type the name of the document there, and I just go there. So yesterday we reviewed the labs, and today I'm just gonna go through just do some bullets here. What's your favorite thing you learned yesterday? We start with Quý. Good. Good. So this is a favorite thing you learned, right? Maybe you can save, something difficult for the second question. Okay. Anything else that? Okay, we go to the next person. Ian, what's the favorite thing you learned yesterday? Push. You learn how to push to GitHub. So, for example, push to GitHub. Very quickly, Git is different from GitHub. Right? Git is the tool to manage your code. Right? Git can remember your, what you wrote yesterday, what you wrote today, what you wrote 5 hours ago. Each time you check in. GitHub is a social network, sort of, except you can't really message each other. They used to have that, and then they got rid of that. It's a community website that you can push your code to, and GitHub can display the information about Git. Right? So GitHub uses Git to showcase your work, showcase to yourself, help you manage your own work, and show to the whole world where the popular libraries people write, can be looked on and collaborated with. Luis? Yes.
Because before I began working with understood has to upload the program in GitHub. When I tried to upload with other stuff, I couldn't find a way.
So yesterday you're saying the favorite thing is what? GitHub as well? So is it related to how convenient it is to do everything from Visual Studio Code? Yeah. So it's like, I think I'm reading you right, is that this is the VS Code to GitHub sort of flow. It's simpler than... Come again? Yeah, very simple. Obviously, when we run into problems, we all may have to go to the nitty-gritty details, command line, and showing why does it not work. But for most of the time, that things work. Use the tool simple like this. It's great. So I think we are the only one who's teaching with this stubborn, attitude that like Visual Studio Code is all you need. But it's not my everyday editor, but I'm using it for this class, and I really think that it benefits every single one of us. Where I don't have to say install a different terminal tool, install Git and learn how to use the command line separately. Every single thing like this is extra burden. There's a lot of brain cells. You will get there though, because Git is just like it helps a little bit, but when you start needing to branch out and do other things, you may prefer your own thing. Initially, let's try to sort of keep everything as a simple flow, like you said. Okay, so anything else? Oscar, anything favorite?
Sure. For me, it's more like from day one, but that hash curly braces method, The fact that when you write a string, you can access a function without having to like stop the string in Ruby.
Sorry,
Do you know what I mean? When you say like puts, quotes, and then like you can access the function by doing hash curly braces.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome. Because I tried learning some like JavaScript before the course, and I did, and it was so annoying to have to always like do braces, then plus function plus continuous string.
It is.
It's such a help.
Thank you. That's my favorite thing as well. To be honest, it's just really amazing where you can just say, put, numbers is numbers.
Yeah.
Right? It's as expressive as you can do it. And I'm just gonna, insert this into a code. Let's say.
It saves so much time.
It saves time, and we don't even need to remember how that is expressed, right? So let's say you have this hash. And then you say, item hash. Maybe I call it, but it's still a hash. And it still understand and convert that to a string nicely. If it's a number, even though it's an integer or a decimal number, it converts to a decimal number. Yeah, that's a great point because as we know, let's say JavaScript up to the version a year ago, like 2 years ago, you cannot do that. So on your browser right now, it doesn't support interpolation like that. Python 2 doesn't have that, so Python 3 brings it in. But the ability to just use this thing called, is interpolation. So it's like take something and expand it out, right, inside a string. It's pretty cool. Okay, so in Python and PHP, sometimes like it's not really clear how that's done, and every time you want to print something, you struggle with the format. Yeah. PHP is really funny. It can do that. It's just really weird. You use the dot to join the string. Why would you do that? Okay, Stan.
For me in particular, it's more about learning like shortcuts on VS Code and being able to, I guess, get to where you need to be a lot quicker than having to use your mouse to scroll over there. And go through between the screens and just being able to use the shortcuts pretty much is what it is.
Right. Okay. So shortcuts on VS Code is where you identify your most frequent actions, and then you realize that when you use the mouse, there's like a hint that you can use a shortcut, and then you start using that intuitively. When you need to focus on the editor, you're like Command B to hide the sidebar. When you go to the terminal, Command J to actually show the terminal down there and start typing. And then you start asking yourself, what do I need? Like, what is, it's my wish list, right? My wish list is that, like Loy asked yesterday, how can I switch the focus to the terminal without using my mouse to click there, right? Or my wish list when I first use this tool, how can I run the code without lifting my hand to touch the mouse or like clicking somewhere else because I want to save time when I demo to my students. So then I'm like, okay, there's an extension called Run Code. And it's an insanely popular extension. It seems to do everything for me. So yeah, I think this is pretty much our idea is sort of learning how to learn here, but learning how to troubleshoot and then learn how to come up with our wish list. And the things about programmer is that most programmers already solve their own. So the good programmers, instead of spending time on the product, they spend time on building better tools so the whole world can build better products. So that's pretty cool. To be honest, just because they work for really great companies and great companies like give them all this free time to be creative too. Like you get paid to build popular tools. You don't just get paid to build the product. So that's really sweet. I think it's much quicker than yesterday, but it's still very useful every day to ask what we learned yesterday. And I thought even though we did not learn new concepts, yesterday was pretty productive to consolidate. So what's difficult to us right now? We'll go reverse. Stan, you first then.
It's still, because I'm still so new to this in general, so for me it's just understanding the concepts and being able to relate the information back. But of course, over time, as I work more and more towards it, and it becomes more of a habit, it becomes a lot easier to follow.
Yeah, this is absolutely very reasonable. Putting key concepts into practice. because you guys see that we have like a ton of exercises. So when you see 10 of them pop in your eyes and you're like, which one am I applying? Which concept am I using? And then when you're using it the first time, second time, you're still like, actually, I don't really understand. Like, why is the variable on the left and why is the value on the right hand side? But yeah, so we just sort of have faith that that is, if we just keep doing that, if the good thing is that we get the feedback from the program. Imagine learning any other things where like math and stuff, like you start solving all this equation. The only thing you can check, maybe after solving like a whole page of equation, you check if the final number is similar to what's in the back of the book. A lot of math books don't even have the final answer for you, and that's a lot harder to get the feedback. So even though, yes, every time you put the key concept into practice here, you may not understand why it works, but the cool thing is that if you do it wrong, Ruby will tell you. If it's right, you can just have a little bit more confidence to move forward. If you run something and there's no error, then it's quite a feat already. So, yeah, Louis, any what's difficult?
The math probably remains that should left spaces between the default symbol and the word sentence. Because I always forgot that.
Okay.
A variable equals, but I forgot to put those spaces.
Oh yeah, so little things like code formatting, right?
Yeah.
This is like code style really. So formatting is all this coloring that we're doing here. So code style is that as we type things, right? Ian, can we have your attention for a minute? Okay, so how with a variable name, the name is that a variable name you cannot start with a number, and if you separate the words, you do want an underscore. In some languages it's different, but so something like that. And let's start, removing some habit is that as you press things, you want this separation, and it's very normal because if you like a greater than 1, b equals 2, these are the true false value. It looks quite nice like this too, but we keep a convention for now. It's just, I think most of the time it's like that. The only exception is that if you do a range from 1 to 10, you definitely don't want it to be like this. It will understand, but it's just kind of weird, right? So this range is very English-like, and you convert that to an array. And in one more case, when you don't want to use a space, is for example when you call a method name, please put the parenthesis next to it, right? Putting this means, oh, this is a variable, right? A method is different because method may come with the thing next to it. So for example, if I do def method name like this, when I use, right, first and last, so it'll be like Adam and Smith. And for example, here is first and last. You see there's a little bit of a parallel there. Okay, great.
Can you use method and function as synonyms, or are they different?
Yeah, so in Ruby, everything is just method.
Okay,
Function
so
is like JavaScript
Okay.
and Python. They, from the programming standpoint, when you get to the deeper level, there are different explanations for them. But for our purpose, they are the same, interchangeable. So I may accidentally say function sometime, but what I mean here is method. And they are, basically function is like in math. So function is more specific. You take input and you give output. So for our use case, methods doing the same thing here. Sometimes method doesn't return anything. It means it's just returning nil. That's the output. It does something inside, right? So yeah, so full name here. Please don't put a space here. Anytime you use that method or function, you go to another language. When you learn a new language, you already, a few days ahead by knowing that these conventions are kind of very similar, right? Except the variable name, JavaScript will be like variable name. That is JavaScript, okay? And there is a case of, no argument. You don't need any argument. You don't even need to put the parentheses there. It's just self-explanatory. So then you can just use it. You definitely could say this, but why, right? No need. So that's just in Ruby. It's understood. Some people who come from the Python world, they will freak out because writing this is like mentioning the function but without running it. Writing this is running the function. But in Ruby, when you mention the method name, it already runs the method. Question? Okay, another difficulty. So that was yours. Okay, now Oscar.
For me, the first one basically getting in practice, because it's like following the concepts along while listening to you is not that hard, but it's very different applying them.
Yeah.
So you just really need to practice it. But also, what I think is, obviously it's all very fast, so I feel like it's all right now in short-term memory. So even now, looking back at like some of the first exercises, I'm already like have to think again. What was it again? How did I do this? So just like getting it, reviewing it, and I think solidifying what I learned. Because otherwise, if I don't look back and don't review it, I think that I'll start like forgetting some of it, because it was very in the moment. Move on to new stuff, so I just need to review a lot.
Yeah, that's just great. I think what's really cool is you guys can identify the difficulties. These are the challenges, very natural challenges that we're facing. And we also know that I can see that all of you pretty much talk about the solution to this difficulty, which is practice, right? So sort of just believe that this will become better and better with practice. What we can say is that you can see what we're doing here. It's also reviewing. And second, all the future tasks, you still need all these small building blocks. So you cannot run away from them. The way you use a string like this, the way you have to push to GitHub. So you may forget here and there. That's completely normal. In programming, it's a lot about looking it up. So now at least you know where to look up. You look up from your own repository of work. Or you can just go to Stack Overflow and you feel more confident that like people ask very similar questions. And you can recognize from 10 answers under that question which answers start to make sense to you. Quý? Any difficulty? Okay, Git. What is what's difficult with Git? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So this how it works and why it works. Definitely, I will never tell you to like ignore it. There's just blindly use it. What I tell you is it's similar, but it's not the same. Be comfortable that you don't understand it now, but please understand it eventually. So what I mean is, for example, Git. There is I think that we have a prerequisite doc here. For example, in there, not this one, I have, okay, 1 second. I'm going to go to the learning portal to point out. The learning portal, you see, there's a link. Obviously, is for example, this one, start learning Git. And people make effort, this is GitHub, to give us a little bit of background context and some practice. And again, you will feel like, heck, it's going a little fast. And then you can try it again. But the point is to get started and how to use it. It will eventually kick in, right? I'll just note it here that when you guys feel more comfortable with some of the key concepts here, the ones who are a little bit ahead, for example, we did some work before, so she did some previous work here, so more comfortable, so I pushed we to try the Git challenge. So I haven't pushed some of you but it's here, right? Ian, any difficulty that Sine, can you prepare these questions? I'm gonna ask you next. Yeah, sorry. Any difficulty for this yesterday? Nothing. Nothing. The difficult part is to think about the difficult things. It's always true, isn't it? In life, it's like that. It's like there's a book, right? The hardest thing about the hardest things. Yes. Okay. So you still find hash? Yeah, hash. And key values. So this is a specific concept, right? So we have very similar difficulties. So great, we have some understanding here. We're all facing the same problem, right? Have very similar problem. Sine, do you have any difficulty, just in general, in terms of yesterday? Yeah, sorry. Just mention anything really. This is just to share our. There will be like I think hash is just confusing. It's ugly or something like that. Okay. So the key point here, guys, is the practice here is just to voice out our thoughts. Just get it out there and really. Most of the work in our software building is just looking things up and applying them. The understanding comes naturally with practice, but trust me, people who build websites, a lot of them don't understand how things get communicated from A to B. And it is what it is. Like, you may have a friend who built this amazing web application because he uses an amazing framework like Ruby on Rails. And how does it work? No idea. I just fill out, a few things in the middle. And it's okay, right? But obviously I'm pushing us to have some core here, but it will get easier eventually. Do you have any tips that may help others? So, anyone want to volunteer? I can volunteer that if you guys still struggle with Ruby and you want a different approach, that you may feel like the way we force you to go through one exercise at a time in lab may feel like it's not making the best of you. You want a more approach more based on it's more story based and stuff. So the Learn to Program book is something you can do as a extra reading in your bedtime or in the toilet. It's quite similar really. It still go through the data structure, but it read like that. So I can give you the link to this book, or funnily, Learn Ruby the Hard Way. It sounds really scary. Well, it's trying to attract serious people, and when you attract serious people, it's much easier to teach them. So, but the idea is still very similar, right? But it's the people here is trying to write things more as a story, because what I'm saying now is like a story, but it will go away. But these things you can always look back, and maybe it's easier than watching the videos. So don't try too many things. These are the only two things that, like, if you really need to look the extra stuff. The official Ruby book, for example, is Programming Ruby, or like the amazing, let's say, Ruby book to write Ruby is like Eloquent Ruby. And these books are more like for people who have some experience and they're very comfortable picking things up at a fast pace. If you want fast pace, our class is already better than those because it's more learning by doing.
I can recommend another book that's the opposite of what you said, which is if you're interested in like the history of Ruby and like what makes Ruby different. There's like a very simple book called Learn Ruby on Rails, book 1, and it goes over like a little bit of like the Basecamp history. It goes over what is Rails,
actually,
like just like background info.
Yeah, I agree. I like that one as well. Give you a little bit more, very short in history of like touch on Ruby, JavaScript, Rails, and yeah, I recommend that as well. Okay, so this is Learn Ruby on Rails by I think this Daniel guy who write the Ruby apps. Learn Rails. I think it's, yeah, we can put that in the link. Yeah. So now that's it, right? No promises. Some of this is like when you give more resources, people get more confused. So pick one that is like when I get confused, then pretty much I just stick with one thing because it's my analogy is like going into the kitchen. If I need to cook this, I can only grab the knife that's there. I'm not gonna go out and go and buy the best knife so I can go back and cook. So that's why I'm always a terrible chef. But seriously, like at least I have something to eat. All right. Any other tips?
I have one more.
Yeah.
That maybe it's obvious to others, but I found that forcing myself to write an answer, even if I'm completely unsure of it, is really useful.
Yeah.
Kind of trial and error, but like when you're looking at a problem and it's difficult, you're like, I don't know how to do this, and then still forcing myself to write something, and then being surprised, like showing it to the guys, and they're like, oh yeah, there's like one small error, but the rest is good. Yeah. Figure it out. Yeah, where my initial instinct was just like, let's ask for help, I have no idea. But actually writing it actually really helps. Just trying. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you for that tip. I think that's it's similar to what I said about like keeping a journal to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Where you can put you don't feel judged by saying something out. And obviously, because if I force you guys to say something out, explain something, what I'm forcing you guys to do here, turn-based, but it's a bit embarrassing to have to say something in public. So we'll combine between your personal things that in your comment in your code, just force yourself to say, I think this does this, and it turns out to be completely wrong, then it's really a good learning point. If it turns out to be correct, then it's a great show-off point. So, yeah, okay. Force you to write something there. So, any tips, Queen? Okay, practice makes perfect. Okay, yeah, we keep. I think we have very similar concept. This is great. Like you say, we just call repeat. Right? Practice here is that you sort of repeat a couple of times. This is a bit more about learning. So if learning to remember and remember to learn, right? When you learn to remember, then you just, let's say, practice 3 times in a row, and please don't do 30 times. You're sort of trying to remember. But when you remember to learn, it's like you wait, put it aside, that 3 times enough. Tomorrow you do another 3 times. So that's just a longer period when you repeat something. So between these two things, when you learn a program, a human language, is harder because the remember to learn part here is harder really. Like what grammar points, what all these new words that you may never really need to use. Hopefully for programming, the core grammar and the core set of key concepts, that's called data structures. It's actually much less. So the building blocks, you really have to use them again. Right? So it will be hopefully easier here, but the hard thing is pretty much that it's very strict. If you just forget a parenthesis somewhere, a quotation mark somewhere, it may take you an hour because you did not test your code often, you don't run it, and then you wrote like 10 lines. Now good luck, because you may forget the end keyword somewhere. Right? So it can be pretty frustrating. Where if you give that to a human, the human will be like, oh, I think you just have this grammatical mistake somewhere. Yeah. Okay, that's the recap. Just stop